All right. So today we're going to be talking about training hard versus training smart. What's the difference? Why is one better than the other? I would hope by the title you could probably tell that training smart is going to be better than training hard. But before all of it, I want to make sure we preface that with the fact that I am not sitting here telling athletes that they don't need to train hard. The goal of this talk is not to make you leave it and think, okay, I can just go slack off and I'm going to have everything I've ever dreamed of as an athlete. No, not at all. Never. Do not take that away from this talk. But before we get into it all, let's get some people in this room. So let's get some people joining me for the live today. As you join, I'd love to hear how your day is going. I'd love to hear any big wins from your day, any big wins from your week. So far this week, we're Thursday, we're hitting the end of the week. So I'd love to hear what you've been up to, how your week is going, how your day is going. And then most of all, as I say at each and every time with these live streams, the goal of these live streams is to impact the careers of athletes. The goal of these live streams is to have athletes better understand what they need outside of simply skill in their sport to achieve what they want to achieve in sport. So, as you tune into this, as you're listening, please share this with a friend, a family member, a young athlete in your life that is trying to build a career for themselves in their sport, a parent of an athlete who is trying to build themselves a career in sport, or someone who's coaching young athletes looking to build a dream career for themselves in sport. These are going to be the people that I'm trying to talk to with these live streams, because as I mentioned, the goal of these live streams is to impact the lives and careers of athletes everywhere. So we're going to get into the episode in just a minute here, and we're going to be talking about training hard versus training smart. So we'll give it about another 10, 20 seconds. And yeah, as I mentioned, that's going to be the topic for today. I hope you guys are all having a wonderful day as well. And let's get into it in 3, 2, 1. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Elite Development Podcast. Today, and on the show today, oh, wow, we are going to restart that one because that did not go at all as I planned. So that's the wonderful thing about these lives. Can't erase it. We're just going to redo it. So 3, 2, 1. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Elite Development Podcast, the show aimed to help athletes gain the edge on their opponent and build their dream careers in sport. And today we are going to be talking about training hard versus training smart. Now, why did I want to talk about this today? I wanted to talk about this because I feel like this is a huge problem in the strength and conditioning industry and in the world of high performance sport. We have so many athletes out there burning themselves out and getting hurt before they actually step into competition. And not in all cases, of course, but in so many cases, this can be prevented. So I want to preface this entire episode by saying I'm not here telling anybody that they should not train hard. I'm not here telling anybody that hard training is a bad thing. I'm just trying to bring some light to the fact that training hard for the sake of training hard and learning how to train smart to develop as an athlete are two very, very different things. So don't leave this episode thinking that Coach Dussault conditioning is just a bunch of random running around and stretching, because yeah, we train hard, but we take into account some of the things I'm going to talk about today to make sure that my athletes are stepping into competition at their best, not dragging their way through training to barely be able to make it to competition. So obviously we can't prevent all injuries, but there are a lot of overuse injuries and just, bodies breaking down out there from people training hard all the time and overdoing it that can really be avoided. So today I want to get into a few things you can do to start preventing some of those overuse injuries. The first thing that you can really do to start training smarter instead of simply training harder and to prevent some of those overuse injuries that we see so often in sport is listen to your body. This is something so simple that I'm sure you've heard before. It is not new information, but you just need to listen to your body. There are days where you're going to wake up and you're not going to feel like training, but you know that's just sort of that inner lazy voice that's kicking in, telling you to, take the day off, to not bother working today. But then there are going to be days too that you wake up and your body is just beat. If you're a fighter and you wake up and you can't straighten out your arm because you're so sore and so beat up from a hard week of training, what benefit do you think it's going to be to go in and train hard that day again? If you're so beat up that you're not going to be able to give a decent effort at the gym, what do you feel like the benefit is of being there anyway? And I've had people tell me, you need to train so that you can teach your body to fight tired, which, yeah, I understand to a degree, but why are we trying to teach your body to fight injured? Why are we trying to push you to the point of not being able to fight properly because you've pushed so hard in training that your body breaks down by the time you get to your fight? So start listening to your body and find the difference here between I'm tired and I kind of feel like a day off, and my body is beat to shit and I need a day off. Because if you can find that difference, you're going to start to take the days off when you actually need them instead of just grinding through anything and everything. And as a result, you're going to feel better when you train. You're going to feel better every day when you step in the gym because your body's actually had the time to heal. Your body's actually had the time to recover. And ask yourself this: what's better, getting that extra round or two in today or your long term health? Because if you're that beat up and you're going in for those extra rounds, you're going to get touched probably a couple more times than you would normally. You're not really going to get a ton out of those rounds because when you're physically not at your best, you're also mentally not at your best. And so by grinding through those extra rounds day in and day out and day in and day out, instead of simply taking a rest day and allowing your body to recover, do you really feel like you're doing more good for your career, or do you feel like you're maybe taking away from your career? So, number one on the list of things to do to start taking better care of your body, start preventing some of these preventable overuse injuries, is to listen to your body. And the main key there is obviously self awareness, as I mentioned, being able to tell the difference between I'm kind of tired and I don't really feel like training, and I'm beat up and I need to take the day off. Because if you truly need it, if you're serious about your goals and you're not half assing your training because you don't feel like it and you truly need that day off, it's going to do you more good to be away from the gym for that day than it is to just grind through those reps at 50% capacity. Number two on the list of things you can do to start training smarter and start preventing some of these preventable overuse injuries is audit your training. If you're working with a coach, ask for an explanation of what you're doing. If you're doing some random hard circuit that has 200 reps of this and 500 reps of that and 1,000 reps of this and 400 reps of that, ask what the translation is to sport. Something I tell all my athletes right from day one, and they're all probably sick of hearing me say it because I repeat it about 10,000 times a day, is everything we do has to translate to your sport. Everything we do has to translate to your sport. So if you're working with a coach and they don't have an answer for that question, how is this going to help me as an athlete? How is this going to help me in my sport? That's a problem. At this point, are you training for actual benefit, or are you just training for the sake of training? And yes, if you're lifting weights, you're probably going to get stronger. But if you audit how you're lifting, if you audit how many times a week, how heavy kind of tempo you're using, all of these different factors are going to be things that can have an effect specifically on your performance when you come back to the sport. So if you're working with a coach, ask them to explain it to you. Ask them to help you understand what it is you're doing, why you're training as often as you are, why you're training to the level, to the volume that you're training, and how this is going to actually help you based around your goals as an athlete. Now, it's easy if you're working with a coach because you just ask them, but there are some people out there still working without coaches. And if you're working without a coach, ask yourself as you're building your program, where is this information coming from? There are going to be a lot of websites that are promoting a lot of training methods out there that, they might have their merit in certain areas, but they might not be what you need. So ask yourself where the information is coming from that you're collecting. And then as you build your training program, don't be afraid to switch things up. Don't feel like you have to have all the answers. If you're doing the same thing week after week after week after week after week, you need some changes in there. So keep doing your research, find the right people, find better people that are going to be able to give you better information, more credible sources, and build your program, build your training based off of information from credible people. And on that note as well, as you're auditing your own training, as you're auditing where you're getting this information, and you're continuing to obviously upgrade that information as well, keep thinking about your specific goals in the sport. Don't feel like you have to incorporate everything. Focus on what you need the most work on at that time. All right. And then we're going to get into number 3, the last one that we're going to talk about today. And that's simply stop neglecting your recovery. I've touched on that a little bit already with learning to listen to your body, but every single day as an athlete can't be grind day. I know that that's what everybody loves. I know that that's what people would rather be doing. I know most athletes out there would rather be in the middle of a hard session doing, going for their 3 sessions a day, working their ass off, feeling like they have to crawl out of the gym because that's the athlete mentality. But that's just not a long-term sustainable solution. So if you're an athlete and you're truly serious about your goals, learn to take those rest days seriously. Learn to take that recovery that you need to be able to continue to progress in your sport. One of my favorite analogies for this and the things I like to use with my athletes is think about it like a road trip. Where you are right now, and then your final destination, whatever that goal is for yourself and your sport, your ultimate goal, where you want to reach in your sport, is the final destination of the road trip. Now, you get in your car and you start driving. And you keep driving and you keep driving. Every day you're grinding, you're training 3 times a day, you're doing all of that, you're driving, and you never stop for gas. You never change the oil. You never actually maintain the car. What's going to happen? You're going to hit a point where the gas runs out, the battery dies, the car breaks down. And that's what's going to happen to your body as well. If you're not recovering, if you're not prioritizing getting good food into your body, good amounts of sleep at night, and then recovery days, actually doing mobility work, actually working on taking care of your body instead of just pushing yourself, the car is going to break down. The car is going to run out of gas. And for a car, that is running out of gas or that's breaking down. For our bodies, that's where we start to see these overuse injuries come in. That's where we start to see these little aches and pains that pop up. That's where we start to see these things that take away from our performance in sport instead of adding to it. So if you've ever woken up in pain, woken up with, every area of your body hurting and thought to yourself, I got to train today, it's just part of the game. It doesn't have to be. And again, back to what I said right at the start of this episode, this is not me saying, hey, you don't have to work hard to succeed as an athlete. Of course you do. You absolutely have to work hard to succeed as an athlete. What I'm saying is if you're in pain all the time, that's not part of being an athlete. That's a warning sign from your body that you're pushing too hard and something's about to break down. So if you've been feeling that, regardless of your sport, regardless of what level of sport you're at, if you've been feeling that lately, that's pain in your shoulders, your knees, your hips, your back, that you feel like you just can't get away from, listen to this episode again. Go through those steps that I talked about, learning to listen to your body, learning to audit your training, and no longer neglecting your recovery. Start implementing these, and you are going to start to feel better. So that's it for me. That is it for me on training hard versus training smart. I hope you were able to take a little something away from this. I hope you were able to understand that that grind 24/7 mentality is broken. That grind 24/7 mentality is not what is going to get you to the top of your sport. I hope you were able to pick up on the fact that recovery is important, refueling the car is important, maintaining the car is important, and without doing these things, you're not headed for the greatness that you hope for. You're headed for pain, you're headed for injury, you're headed for defeat. I know that sounds grim, and I'm sorry if that sounds too harsh, but it's the truth. It's not who is willing to work the hardest, it's who is willing to be the smartest. That's learning to, yes, push yourself. Yes, work hard to the point where you feel like you can't work any harder, but also balance that with sleeping well, balance that with proper nutrition, balance that with recovery days that you actually allow your body to heal, and continue to keep an open mind, continue to develop those systems, and continue to progress over time. So if you enjoyed the episode, if you enjoyed everything we talked about today, I would love it if you would take a moment, go leave a review for the show on whatever platform you're listening to, and then drop me a comment. Shoot me a message. I'll have my social media and my email in the show notes below. Shoot me a message with your biggest takeaway. Shoot me a message with anything that you were able to take away, that you were able to learn from this episode, and what is one thing you are going to take from this episode and implement. I'd love to hear that from you. That always means a lot when I get those messages from you guys. And then my one final ask is that if you're taking away something from these episodes, if you're enjoying the show, if you're learning from the show, share it with a friend, share it with a teammate, share it with a family member that's also competing in sport, and get them tuning in so that we can continue to spread this message of longevity, spread this message of health and wellness in athletes, and actually start changing the world of elite performance sport. Thank you guys all so much for tuning in. This is the end of the episode. I look forward to talking to you next time.